Hi, welcome back everyone. This is another installment of ALCA-Seltzer, the Adirondack Lake Center for the Arts online series. Today we're doing the third workshop and welcoming back our Indian Lake librarian, Susan. Today she's going to teach us how to make yogurt at home. So, all yours, Susan.
Okay, well great. It's a pretty simple process to make yogurt at home. You really just need two ingredients, one being milk and the other being some kind of yogurt culture. Yogurt cultures you can actually buy. They're like little dehydrated packets of bacteria, good bacteria. But if you've gone online lately looking for that kind of thing, a lot of people are buying it, so it's a little harder to find. I also happen to be a little bit more thrifty, so I actually use my previous batch of yogurt as my culture, and that's what I'm going to teach you how to do. It makes it really easy, and again, a lot less expensive. So I started with a half a gallon of whole milk, and that's what I have heating up here on my stove. And I want to get the temperature of the milk up to about 180 degrees. At 180 degrees, the proteins in the milk will start to denature, and that will allow the yogurt process, once the cultures are added, will help with the coagulation so that your yogurt will thicken up nicely. One of the best things that I use for doing the temperature is one of these instant read thermometers.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's really nice because it's easy to read. But if you don't have one of these, a regular thermometer that you use for like maple syrup or making candy or something like that would probably work just fine. I wouldn't use the thermometers that we take our temperatures for because it'll probably explode or something because that's pretty high. And another thing that I do when I'm heating up my milk is I want to keep stirring it constantly, or else it could scald a little bit at the bottom. Not the end of the world, but it kind of makes it a mess to clean up. And something you want to keep in mind when you make your yogurt is you always want to start with very, very clean implements. So you want to make sure that the pan that you're using is really squeaky clean at the bottom, and also that anything you're using, and I'm using this little whisk, is also very clean. Making dairy products at home, you always want to have a pretty clean situation going on.
About how long is that going to take to heat up?
Not too terribly long. I've had it on for a while. Let's see what the instant read says. It's about 1:15 right now, so that's pretty good. Now, I said we were going to get this up to 180 and let the proteins start to denature. Some things that I've read online is you want to keep doing this at 180 for about 20 minutes to half an hour. I don't do that.
That's a lot of stirring.
That's a lot of stirring. My arm's already kind of singing. No, I've never done that. As soon as it gets to 180, I remove my milk from the heat, and then I try to get that temperature back down. And the way I do that is I cheat a little bit and I use a little pan full of water. It's not icy cold water because I don't have ice cold water here at the library, but it's cooler water, and that'll help gradually bring the temps down. And I want them down to about 110 to 180, and that's when I will add my yogurt culture. And that's the temperature that it works really, really good to coagulate. Now, while I'm doing this and waiting, I wanted to talk a little bit about how you keep that temperature about 110, 115. You need to do that for, it says maybe 5 to 9 hours, just depending on your situation. Yogurt makers you can buy online. The thing that kept me from doing this for the longest time is I didn't want to have another appliance I had to plug in because just life was too short and my counters are very limited in my counter space. So a friend of mine, her husband was recovering from stage 4 colon cancer, and she was trying to fatten him up as much as possible. And one of the ways she was doing that was making homemade yogurt. And she told me about this yogurt maker that she found called Yogotherm, and it's basically a container that has styrofoam in the lid and styrofoam in the body. So it's basically a little cooler, and then it comes with this awesome little 2-quart bucket that you pour your yogurt in.
It fits right inside.
Fits right inside, and you can just leave it go overnight. Usually is what I do because I feel like, I just make yogurt in the evening and then go to bed and let it do its thing. And I know I didn't pay a lot of money for this when I bought it, probably 8 years ago. I went on Amazon when we knew we were going to do this class, and it's now going for about $60, which is kind of nuts.
For a little styrofoam container.
Yeah, it's basically a cooler with a pretty picture on it, which if you want to buy it, I highly recommend it. It's wonderful, but, you know, $60. So here I have a cooler that we just use for everyday whatever, you know, getting stuff from the grocery store or going camping. And what I've done is I put a towel in the bottom of the cooler, and then these are just a couple of empty ricotta containers that I can pour my yogurt into. Pop them in the cooler, put the towel on top, cover it in the lid, and just leave it somewhere in my house, preferably someplace, you know, a little bit warm, but it doesn't have to be overboard. Oh, and the milk I use is just regular plain old milk from Stewart's. I don't know if it's homogenized or not homogenized, but it's 100% full of fat milk, and I like that texture the best. I think you can probably do it with a fat-free milk or skim milk. It's just that's not my preference.
Probably wouldn't be as thick, maybe.
It wouldn't probably be as thick, and it might be a little bit extra runny. You will find a bit of whey on top of your yogurt, just like the store-bought kind, but that's just fine. I just stir it in and add it to whatever I'm making, like a smoothie or something. We'll do one more test, see what we got. And it's starting to just get a little frothy on the top, so that's just perfect. We're up to about 162. And again, 180 is the goal, and if you want to leave it at 180 for a little while, that's fine, but again, it's really hard to control it once it gets up to that temperature to not keep it going up. And I've never had a problem just removing it from the heat and cooling it down right away, so we'll just go with that idea.
If it works for you, it'll work for us.
Hopefully, yes. And I love, you know, the little homemade cooler setup too, because I think that can work
everybody's
really
going to have that at home.
Oh,
so.
yeah. And if you have a big cooler, not a small one like this, you just put more towels in there because, you know, that'll keep it even cozier. Another thing that would work if you don't have plastic containers would be like a regular metal thermos. You could pour your yogurt mixture in that, as long as it's big enough. And I think the Stanley thermos, I looked online, that's like about $35, which is still a little pricey. That's a 2-quart one that would work really well.
Great.
So take a look at what you have at home. Okay, we're up to 175, so it won't be long.
Does this last in the refrigerator as long as your store-bought yogurt?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, like about a month ago, I probably did a full gallon, like in 2 different batches, one day and one the other, and we just finished it off almost finished it off yesterday. So it lasts a pretty good long time. Okay, we're up to 180.
That was fast.
Yeah, it doesn't take long. I don't mess around at home when I do this because it's usually, you know, at night and I'm tired and I'm like, oh no, I want to make yogurt. So I get her going. Okay. So now I simply plop that into my little pot of cooler water, and I'm going to keep stirring it around a little bit. At home, this takes a little less time for the cooling, only because I usually will have this pot sitting in my sink, and I'll keep replenishing the water, being really careful not to splash it into my yogurt, because that just adds more liquid to it.
What about flavors? Have you ever added different flavors?
I have. I've done vanilla in there, and I put maple syrup in there, and I've also put frozen fruit in. But I put all that stuff in after it's made into yogurt, after it's sat overnight. The reason being is, well, frozen fruit would lower the temperature, and I don't think the cultures would be as happy. And I wasn't sure if the temperature of the yogurt would diminish the flavor of maple syrup or anything else that I put in there, so I usually will wait till the next day. The consistency isn't really very stiff, so it's pretty easy to whisk some stuff in there.
Why frozen fruit?
Oh, just because that's what I had on hand when I've
Okay,
done it.
so you could use fresh.
Oh yeah, you totally could use fresh. I would still probably wait a little while, just, I don't know, or make it a science experiment, see what happens. So again, now that we have it up to temp, The goal is to get it down to about 110, 115. And I will have instructions on the website so that you don't have to remember all this stuff. And we're down to 143 already, so it doesn't take long. Again, if I was replenishing this water with cold water, it would be a little bit quicker. Now, I don't feel much difference in the texture of the milk at this point. I can see the level's gone down a little bit because a little bit of evaporation's taken place. Yogurt has a lot of good stuff for your gut. And again, you can order yogurt culture that it would mix with some of this warm water. It comes sort of dehydrated, the little bacteria.
Is that like the same like kind of yeast packet?
Kind of like that, I guess. I've never used it, but that's what I imagine it looks like. It comes in tiny little packets.
How much does that cost, do you know?
I think I saw a maker similar to this that came with like 10 packages, and I think the packages were like $22. So not cheap. I mean, you can make a good bit of yogurt with it. I think it was a 10-pack, but still, I don't know. You got to pay for the milk too.
Mm-hmm.
So if you buy regular yogurt, to start your yogurt, you're going to have like, a quarter yogurt you eat, and like save a little bit at the back. Make sure what you're buying has live active cultures in it. That means that it will activate your next batch.
Unflavored?
I do unflavored because that's what I preferred. I don't know what would happen if you use flavored. It probably wouldn't be the end of the world. What you want to avoid are like these blended yogurts that have a lot of sugar and things added to them already. So I would probably go with plain or maybe vanilla, something like that.
Okay.
But live active cultures is the key.
Does it have to be Greek or non-Greek? I mean, you see that a lot nowadays.
No, I don't think it matters. All its difference with Greek yogurt is I think they strain it. So they'll put, I don't know how they do it in a big factory, but the way I would do it is I would take this yogurt, stick it in a strainer with cheesecloth lining it over a pot, and the extra whey would come through, and what you'd be left with is thicker yogurt at the top. So that would be your Greek yogurt.
Great.
So we are about ready now. And I can see that my thermometer is like right at 115. So that's perfect. So I'm just going to take my little blob here. And recipes I've seen, 2 quarts of milk, 3 tablespoons of yogurt. I don't even know what that is. That's what was left in my yogurt container this morning. It's probably about a quarter cup or a third of a cup. I'm just going to put it all in because it's not really an exact science. At least I don't treat it as an exact science, and it seems to work okay. Then I just use my little whisk to stream it through there. And if for some reason my yogurt that I was using was really thick, I could even scoop up a little of the milk and kind of thin it out and then pour it in, so it'd be a little easier to do.
It still looks pretty thin in the pot.
It is. It takes a little bit of time. Like I said, I leave mine overnight, and that's what thickens it up. And it's always like a little mini miracle every morning that I open it up. It's like, oh, it worked again. Stuff I've seen online too has said that you can do this with regular yogurt as your starter for only so long, and then it doesn't work anymore. And I've never had that happen.
I wonder why they say that. Because
probably to make you buy more yogurt. I don't know. I'm not really sure. But I don't find that to be a problem at all. Now I'm going to try the scary part, pouring it neatly into the container in the library on the floor. Don't tell anybody.
Yes, folks, we're in the library trying to practice social distancing.
Right. And again, you are pouring hot liquid, so if you're not really steady with that kind of thing, get someone to help you. I typically will do this over my sink, so if I make a mess, it's okay. And look, we did it, yay! So, next thing I'll do is pop a little top on here and burp it like it's Tupperware. I don't know if you have to do that, I just like to do that. And then pop it in your yogurt maker. Leave it somewhere in my house. Maybe I'll leave it here at the library overnight, I don't know. But the idea is to keep it at the same temperature for as long as you possibly can, and that'll help the bacteria get all thickened up, and you'll have some beautiful, lovely, creamy yogurt at the end of it.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Can you tell us your website address so we can...
Oh, it's indianlake.sals.edu, and I'll have it in a post at the top of the home page with the recipe and the instructions.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome.
All right,
Thanks for having me
everybody, look forward to our next one. It'll be a surprise. Bye-bye.